listeners, and I'm going to point at the camera if you're actually watching. Welcome to another episode of SAX's Industry Vitals. This is our extremely robust and very well listened to podcast where we really meet with some of our the consultants that we work with within the healthcare industry, and we talk about just kind of what's going on, the hot topics, the good, the bad, the ugly, under the umbrella of healthcare in the New York metro market. We're excited today to have Michael Engelhart with us today. So
thank you.
Yeah, of course, Michael. Why don't you, for the listeners, for the thousands of listeners that are out there, introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about your practice area. I know you do quite a few things, and so talk to us about the practice area that we're going to be discussing today.
Great.
And then we'll just kind of hit you with a bunch of questions as we go. And I should say, I'm here with my favorite and ever dashing co-host, Debbie Nappi, who's rocking the leather today. I appreciate that. Really sweet. It's finally cool enough to wear a jacket. Yeah. So Michael, hit us. Give us a little bit about your background.
My background is I've had 7 careers, and
only 7?
Yeah, and 3 of them were in healthcare. One was the president and CEO of a publicly traded medical device company. So I've kind of been full circle inside of healthcare. And 2 years ago, my co-founder, Guy Livingstone, who interestingly enough was the co-founder of Tough Mudder. A dozen years ago.
Yep.
I reacquainted with him 2 years ago. I had sold them their Key-Man disability and life insurance back then. And we reacquainted, and I said, Guy, I have this idea, and it's kind of using insurance and technology and distribution to make buying disability income protection buy-sell key person easier. And that's morphed into so many opportunities for us. So we work with that platform for law firms, healthcare, private equity, et cetera. But in terms of healthcare, it kind of became our golden chalice because we got a call from an advisor who said, I have 2 MSOs that have a total of 7,000 independent 1099 physicians, and they want a guaranteed issue disability policy. Can you do it? So I just said, yeah, we can do it. And then we went to work.
Yeah.
So, and we were able to negotiate with Sun Life, and Sun Life said, we will give you a guaranteed issue for 1099 contractors. And it was terrific because it ends up being around 25% cheaper. And all we're doing is offsetting that income that physician is making from that MSO as a 1099 contractor. As a consequence, there's no offset to the other disability they have and other things that they're doing.
Gotcha.
And the policy goes actually past the age of 65 if you're still working. And then we created a silver, bronze, and platinum. So 5,000, 7,500, and 10,000, depending on what you're making. We populate a microsite with all the information, so when the physician comes on, they get educated through multimedia, and they can actually acquire the policy in under 3 minutes.
Wow.
So super efficient, and we had our first launch 4 months ago, which went really well, and we're launching to 5 MSOs in January with a total population of about 18,000 physicians. So we're really excited about it. It's a great your own occupation, definition for that physician. And what we found with the MSOs is they said, this is a great plan, but we don't want to be the policy holder.
Right.
And we don't want to be the policy holder because if we get audited, they may say that, no, they're not 1099 because you're offering them this policy, this disability policy. So we had to pivot, and our pivot was to create the Independent Clinicians Association, which we domicile in Montana. And we had to put a whole bunch of things in that association because it's not just built to acquire insurance, right? So we have physician burnout videos, over 80 of them, where the physician can also get continuing education credits. We have independent financial planning. We have a news feed. We have ultimately we're going to have JP Morgan on the platform, and then of course we have the disability and soon to be long-term care, which is a good pivot. So on the long-term care side, they also said, we'd like to see long-term care. Can you get us a guaranteed issue offer? So long-term care, everybody's talking about long-term care, right?
Well, that's a good segue.
But there's not a lot of people doing anything in it.
Right.
So,
Well, I feel like a few years back, that was the hype, right? And then it got rolled into whole life insurance, and it was too expensive.
Yeah.
Right? But now
right.
it's coming back that it's something that should be part of your
Right.
statement.
And the, 12 years ago, when they had all those term long-term care products, the actuarial didn't work, right? They all got their clocks cleaned, so they all went out of business.
Right.
Yep.
Except
Yeah. Two. Yep.
Right? So they came in with the hybrid policies, first on whole life, and now there's one company that does it on a term basis as well. So the whole life can be very expensive, and it's a rider, right? So it's not true long-term care, right? It functions like it. So we started working with a company called Trustmark out of Chicago. And Trustmark is, I think, the best long-term care play out there, but they only work with companies that have a minimum of 100 eligible lives.
Okay.
And 10% have to take it in order for them to issue individual policies.
Got it.
And Trustmark is unique because they're on a universal life chassis, right? And which is getting a return, which is keeping the premiums, in a more moderate.
Yeah.
But the premiums will never go up.
Got it.
Right? So, and there's a death benefit to it. So not only do you have long-term care, but you also have a life policy if you don't use it.
Right.
Sure.
So for instance, in one of the groups that we're working with, we have $200,000 of benefit, which has a multiplier of 2, so $400,000 of pure LTC coverage, right? Guaranteed every year. And it also has a partial aspect to it, which means, let's say you're a 33-year-old neurologist and you have a couple of dangerous hobbies, and one of those dangerous hobbies you get in an accident and you can't do your job for the next 12 months, it's going to function like a disability policy in that if you can't do 2 of the ADLs, it's going to pay you out until you go back to work, and then you'll have the full benefit for the future.
Got it.
Right? So really unique product, really incredibly well received.
Sure.
And we're super excited about being able to roll that out. So that'll be it actually is now in the association, and it'll be in Hollowtree Solutions, which is our healthcare vertical. The company is Hollowtree Holdings.
Got it. So that's it. Hollowtree Solutions.
Yeah.
Can you still borrow against those policies, like traditional life insurance?
Yeah, no, not really on that one.
Okay.
It's interesting because you can surrender the policy and get some of your cash
Right.
back.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody's going to do that though. They're gonna buy it.
Sure.
Pay the premium on a monthly basis. Forever.
Now, how do you get exposure to the MSOs that you're working with?
Yeah, so it kind of is just mushroom. We had an advisor bring us several, and then my partner, co-founder Guy, and one of our other principals went to trade shows where there were a lot of MSOs and private equity, and then we got a database, and we've done a great job, Guy in particular, of scraping databases, and it's amazing what you can do today.
It is very amazing. And trade shows still work.
They still
By the
work.
way, I
Yeah.
want to validate that.
No.
As the marketing guy at the table, I
Yeah.
think there's tremendous value.
The last
It's
trade
great
show
to hear.
we went to,
Yeah.
we have 3 new MSOs with
That's
a
great
total
to
of
hear.
9,000 lives potential, right?
That's great to hear.
So, as we build out Hollowtree Solutions and the association, we'll do everything from having a company to come in and do accounting. If it's large enough, it'll be you guys.
Sure.
We'll bring in a bookkeeping group. We've been asked to have somebody who can form corporations for these 1099 physicians. So the more we start to populate this, the more people are saying, can you do this, can you do this, can you do this? And the interesting thing is there's no voice for 1099 independent clinicians.
Yeah.
They don't have a voice. So if you think about, free agent physicians,
Sure.
if you
Yeah.
will, right?
Yeah.
And what's the satisfaction that they're having with these MSOs? It's all over the map, right?
That's interesting.
And then for the MSO, it becomes a matter of how do I recruit
Yeah.
and how do I retain? And what kind of benefits can I show them
Sure.
that are available to them because they're these independent clinicians?
Sure.
So inside of the ICA, we have the MSOs coming on as corporate members, and then the doctors join as members. And they get a whole series of benefits.
So how much of your time do you spend targeting the MSOs versus the docs themselves? Is there a disparity there?
It's a real big disparity when we
it's
enroll.
all lemon stuff. Yeah.
You know, when we enroll, it's all hands on deck.
Right,
Because even though, you know, physicians are the largest buyers of disability income protection by far, they keep it forever. They always are looking for more, right? And so it's all hands on deck in an enrollment. Otherwise, we keep hunting for more MSOs.
Sure.
And also, frankly, we'll work with W-2 as well, obviously, like hospitals or whatever, but that can be very bureaucratic.
Sure.
And we can waste a lot of time very quickly. And we also do a great job at buy-sell planning, implementation of buy-sell disability and buy-sell life insurance. Disability is never talked about in a buy-sell agreement because people think it's too expensive, right? Meanwhile, the living death is much more impactful than somebody dying a lot of times. And then the key man planning, or key person planning, if somebody is acquired and something happens to that physician the first 1 or 2 years. There's a dental roll-up that we're just starting to work with, and I think they've purchased over 300 dentists practice in the last couple of years. And we said, do you have key person life and disability? I'm like, well, no. Well, what happens if that dentist can't perform?
Sure. Yeah.
That practice is done.
It's done. Yeah.
Because you're not going to find another dentist.
There's a single point of failure there.
Correct.
Yeah.
So super interesting from that perspective. And I think also on the buy-sell side, really great time to review buy-sell agreements in general because of the Connolly case, right? So the Connolly case said that there was an entity purchase agreement between two brothers, one older, one younger. The older brother died. And there was also an insurance policy that went to the entity, and the IRS argued and won that the value of the business increased by $3 million, which was the amount of the life policy, which triggered an $831,000 tax to the state. And the Supreme Court upheld it unanimously. Yeah. So it's a good time to review the buy-sell agreement. Most people, once they do it once, they never look at it again. They never get another valuation. Yeah. Many of them aren't even signed. Wow.
Well, I am not allowed to disparage the IRS given what we do for a living, but that's a kind of a crappy situation. No, I'm kidding. Before we get too deep, by the way, you glazed over this before, and I forgot to ask. Your partner is a co-founder of the Tough Mudder. Have you ever run it?
Yeah.
Have you ever run it?
I never ran it.
Okay. Total aside. I don't know if you realize. We skipped right over that. I got to get back to that. Let me bring up, I don't know if you have a question, Deb, I just have a quick, let me bring up a subject matter that's been, just based on the timing of where we sit today, we're in late November now. We just had a very massive and very impactful election, a week and a half ago. Do you see, what do you see as far, we're not getting political on this lovely little podcast here, but what do you see, is there an impact as a result of an administration change regarding your line of work, your business?
Yeah, I think so. We've talked to a lot of private equity firms, and we prior to the election, we've seen a big slowdown in acquisitions by private equity of healthcare in general, in particular physician practices and things of that nature. And it's because there's a lot of noise out there about the government saying, this may not be a good idea for private equity to own healthcare.
A lot more regulatory regulation around it, and even looking into it, because they're tending to purchase. And private equity, when it doesn't go well, they want to.
Sure. Well, it's funny because that's sort of opposed to when we first started this podcast. There was a lot more discussion around private equity coming into healthcare, and sort of it's come full circle.
So now they're being required to hold on to practices longer.
Right.
They can't just do the 3-year roll-off.
That's slowing them down as well.
Yes,
right.
yes, because that's not what their funds are put together for.
Sure,
right?
sure, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting when we've talked to private equity. One of the events the guys went to, a lot of private equity, and we've had side conversations since. And I'm just going to say, for the most part, we talk about these types of insurances, and it goes on deaf ears. Yeah. But inside of the MSO, it doesn't, right? Because they're operating the company. Sure. So, I get it. It's a different formula. I mean, I think in the next 10 years, that healthcare's really in a big trouble, right? I mean, in the physician space, we have older physicians. We have not many new ones coming in or what they were, right? We have people moving to different specialties. We have people moving out of certain areas. Like if you look at
the shortages.
You're correct. And if you look at rural hospitals around this country, I mean, it's dead man walking, right? Doctors don't want to work in a rural hospital, and in many of the rural hospitals, that's why these MSOs that are emergency room operators do well, so they rotate people around. But in those rural hospitals, there's no hospitalist to admit the patient into the hospital, so that patient has to be transported to a metro center, which is incredibly expensive.
Sure.
No revenue going to the rural hospital, and as a consequence, they're going to go out of business, and the whole community is affected by that. Right?
And a lot of
Work for Doc
times,
Hollywood. I'm totally dating myself.
You are.
Michael J. Fox forever. I'm sorry, I'm totally dating myself.
but a lot of them too are now partnering with hospitals in the city whereby they can call in
Yeah, sure.
and get advice,
It's
right?
common,
We're
yeah.
admitting this patient, let's call this center,
Sure.
right? Because they don't
Yeah.
have the staff.
And it's going to
available.
be, telemedicine is going to have to take a big place in this. Right?
Sure.
I work with a company, Optimum Healthcare, which is a hospitalist telemed company, and board certified U.S.
Yep.
And on a phone, they can be with the ER doc and the family, and they can admit the patient to that hospital.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Which is
It's
great,
lovely.
right?
It's fantastic,
It's
yeah.
fantastic. So technology from that perspective is really going to be very important. But I definitely have concern about the whole physician part of the market, and how long it takes to get an appointment for anything,
Sure.
right? Unless you know someone.
And what is the technology impact on your line of work? I mean, everybody's favorite buzzword is artificial intelligence, right? How do you guys leverage AI
Yes.
into the tech?
We do a great job of kind of tying tech together, and AI certainly has been incredibly impactful, both from creating prospects to delivering enrollment, and it's probably saved us $2 million of capital, and in the last year, the acceleration has just been incredible.
Yeah.
And inside of the kind of the insurance structures out there, the companies, I'm not going to say that they're asleep at the wheel, but from a distribution standpoint, their legacy systems, terrestrial insurance companies, et cetera. And part of what we've created at Hollowtree is a modernization of distribution. Right, and we've taken the friction out of the system to make the whole buying purchase that much easier, and to get you protected that much easier.
Now, does it matter with disability as far as like state lines as to where you can sell or the type of product, or it crosses all
Yeah, so
lines?
it's a good question. So Sun Life in this case has to file in each state, and there are some nuances state by state. We're licensed in every state. So we're in good shape there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then also on the long-term care side, just to pivot back to that, again, $200,000 of guaranteed issue for that physician, and they can get another 50 through a couple knockout questions, and another 50 through some simplified underwriting with an RX pull. But there isn't really any for the spouse. So if there's a purchase here, then we can also protect the spouse, but on a standalone product, right? So, but I can say that when we got into this business, it was disability focused, and it's just evolving and moving quickly. And long-term care, the interest is incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
Right.
Sure.
Right. So.
Now, you mentioned all the videos. Is that part of your platform? So when the MSO signs up with you, then they get all of these videos that you make available?
Yeah, so that's all coming together now. We are just about to sign the deal with Dr. Dirk Drummond, and Dirk created these 80 videos, and they'll all reside on the ISA site, and we will certainly make that part of the package to MSOs that your doctors, when they're members here, have full access to that.
Cool.
And what we've had an interesting conversation with a medical malpractice company that has bought us a prospect with 20,000 physicians in California that buy their med mal through them, and they want us to design a platform for disability, long-term care, et cetera. And we told them about these 80 videos for burnout.
Yeah.
We said super important from the med mal side, because a lot of claims, a lot of lawsuits are because physicians burned out, something occurred, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So super interesting.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It always boggles my mind how quickly time goes when we're having these podcasts, right? So because we are not Joe Rogan and not as entertaining as he is, we try to limit the amount of time that we chat here. So Michael, give me talk a little bit, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up, put a bow on it. What does the future of your business look like? What is you kind of alluded to this a little bit with what's going on with that, MSO in California, but what's on the, product roadmap, or what does the future look like? Let's leave them with that.
Yeah, so I think with Hollowtree and the association, we have a unicorn. We've created something very unique with unique offerings, and from a healthcare perspective, I believe we're going to end up having probably 15,000 to 20,000 physicians in this thing in the next 2 to 3 years, having really good experience, great coverages at a great price, and we'll keep looking to design more products that fit them and their lifestyle and where they are in their practice. So we're super excited about where we're at.
That's awesome. I love to hear that.
So what size client, MSO?
Oh yeah, good one. Yep.
Yeah, what would you like?
Yeah.
Right, like what?
Yeah, or if any of our
towards?
clients and MSOs are listening, right? What's the
And it doesn't have to be an MSO. It could be a practice that may have only W-2 physicians and employees, or a combination of W-2 and 1099. So anything over 10 physicians, we can design something with a guaranteed issue plug-in for it. So
that's perfect.
on the long-term care, again, has to be 100 total population.
Sure.
10 joining, but on the DI side, we can do something different.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we will 100% share all of your contact information, so that if anyone listening wants to get in touch, they can.
Great.
And it's crazy. We just spent 20-25 minutes chatting.
Yeah.
It goes by like that.
And we'll put this up on the ICL.
Oh, I love that. Awesome.
Through our
Thank
LinkedIn
you.
and get you guys out there.
That's it, man. That's what this is all about, right? This is about amplifying our respective brands.
That's it.
And talking about how at the end of the day we're all consultants in the marketplace. That's our job.
Right.
So we're very passionate about the healthcare industry here at SAX, and Debbie lives, breathes, and eats it all day, every day. And it's great to have guys like you.
To meet Michael.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
100%. Thanks, Missy, for the introduction. Just gotta give her the call out.
Thanks, Missy.
Michael, thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.